Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kautstubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kautstubha. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Sleepin' Sunday. Yeah, we start at 8 o'clock on Sunday. It's good. It gives you a little break, a little chance. I woke up at 5. It was good today. Woke up at 5. I did a sauna today, Kautstubha. It's a nice sweaty sauna, did some good pranayama, took a freezing cold shower, and did a beautiful ecstatic puja this morning. I had a great morning.
Good, good.
How are you?
I'm all right.
I listened to lectures on the 15th chapter because that's going to be our theme today. Usually we do interview day today. Today we're going to interview the Bhagavad-gita. We're going to interview, we're going to go over the 15th chapter of the Gita today. It's a special day because it's a special month. It's the month of Purushottama, which is the equivalent in a lunar calendar to a leap year. It's a leap month. So every day we're reading privately our 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is called Purushottama Yoga. And so today we're going to talk about the 15th chapter. That's our interview. We have no regular interview. We're just going to talk about the Bhagavad Gita 15th chapter, and I think it should be a little inspiring.
Something that in this month, a lot of people take a vow to read this chapter every day.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing it.
I've been doing it. Mara's been doing it.
All right.
It's a great chapter, and it's a quick chapter. Chapter, I think it's 15 and 15 and 12, and maybe 17 are the shortest chapters. 20 verses. Yeah, I remember in India, they used to, if the kids did something naughty, they'd get punished by having to chant the 15th chapter of the Gita.
Okay.
It's good punishment. It's an easy chapter to chant, and you're sort of like, all right, I got to do it. Although it probably doesn't set up a good anchor.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Something
Like,
you know what I mean?
I have negative.
Yeah, maybe standing in the corner is a better option.
I don't know if I like either of those.
Hey, did I send you the cover of my book? My book's coming out.
Nope.
In March.
What does it look like?
I'll send you the cover. It looks pretty cool. Maybe we can post it. Maybe Mary can post it on the message board. But I think we're gonna have 2 book release events, one in New York and one in LA, where it's going to be the Revelation Records Festival, and we're going to have what is it? I think Shelter and Youth Today are going to play during the weekend,
and other bands too.
What's that? And a bunch of other bands from Revelation Records. So they're sort of like Revelation festivals, but we will, Youth Today will headline one day, and Shelter will headline another day.
I think you're going to sell a few books there. I got a feeling, huh?
We'll sell them. We'll autograph them, or I'll just give out hugs. Some people are like, autographing's uncool, so I'll just hug you. I'll hug you.
Right.
That's okay. But truthfully, I like autographs. I like getting my records autographed. I like getting my books autographed. It's just a little special. Write a little note.
Tell me about some of the autographs you have.
I've got Radhanath Swami's autographs.
Anything else?
I think I had a Glenn Danzig autograph.
Do you?
You know what? This sounds stupid, but I get the guys in my band when I go on tour to autograph like a tour poster. Just makes it more special.
All right.
Yeah.
A personal connection.
A little personal connection. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Speaking of personal connection, this is a good. We're reading about the supreme person today.
by the way, I'm going to put this isn't, I'm not supposed to do this, but Mara's about to share the book cover, but you're not supposed to spread it around yet. So don't spread it around yet. Oh, believe me, when it's time to spread it around, I'm going to let everybody know to spread it around. And I'm going to ask for everybody's organic help in popularizing this book. Okay. So what's up today? Ready to start? Or you want to talk about some announcements?
Does Mara have any
Oh,
announcements?
Miss Mara's got some announcements.
Can I have a mic?
Yeah.
We're back to recovery group meetings today at 9:30 a.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern time. And tomorrow's show will be back to 6 a.m.
Woohoo! Chit, chit, chit. What do you think? There's the cover of the book right there. You see it?
Bad. Punk or monk? You went with that title. From punk
Yeah.
to monk? Is that what it says?
Mm-hmm. I look really ripped in the picture. It might be Photoshop.
Right. Photoshop that away.
Can you rip me 2 more packs for my 6-pack? Give me an 8-pack, please. All right.
What was the title that I came up with? Punk Monk Yogi.
Punk to monk.
No, it's just Punk
Monk
Monk Yogi. Yeah.
Punk monk yogi. That was my title. Oh, that was your title. Yeah, got voted off. Got voted off the cover. But it was I liked yours.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, it works. It works.
It works. Okay. Alrighty. I found some cool pictures of you and me getting initiated in Vrindavan in the back.
Oh, you did? You traced them down?
I traced them, but they weren't
didn't make the
great
book.
for the book, so I didn't do it. And the one of you and me, I cannot find anywhere. It was me and you sitting next to each other. It's somewhere even on my Instagram, I think, but I couldn't find the original. So I'm just disorganized. Ask Mara; she'll tell y'all.
Well, let's get it together and let's get into this.
You know what? I've just come to this conclusion. I may not get it together in this lifetime.
We can get it together on the show.
Okay.
That's all I'm asking.
Get it together for the show. I can do that. But I'm going to get it together in this lifetime. And you know what? This is sort of like the beginning verses of the 15th chapter. Okay. You may not get it together, people. Some people are waiting for the day they get it together. They may not get it together. As long as you can get the main thing together. If you get that main thing, worship of Sri Krishna, surrender to God, then all you got to do, we're going to talk about the banyan tree. Then you just cut that banyan tree. You cut I'm going to cut all my messiness right away, Kautstubha. I'm going to cut that banyan tree of my life. You ready to dive into this?
Yeah. Why don't you read the first 4 verses? Or should we go back and forth? How do you want to do this?
No, I'll do the first 4. Let's do it like that. And then you read, and then I read. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Did I already do that? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I like to do it anyway. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Gyana Tamarandasya. Gyana Anjana Salakaya. Chaksurun Midatam Yena. Tasmai Shri Guruveda Maha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My teachers are opening my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. This is chapter 15, text 1. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "It is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas." So if you're a part-time botanist or a tree lover, you know that banyan trees are massive. They're a type of fig tree, and they even have little figs on them. You can't really eat them, or they're probably not that good. But they're massive, and they grow, and they can get gigantic. And generally, they're considered a holy tree. Krishna says in the 10th chapter of the Gita, right? Of trees, I am the Ashvata, or the sacred, or the holy fig, or the. But anyway, Shaivites worship them. Also, oftentimes you see in India a Shiva lingam or a Shiva deity within the tree, because they get so big they create like little caves. And there's one gigantic tree in Calcutta that takes up an entire city block. One who knows this tree is the knower. Okay. It is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree with its roots upwards and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Text 2. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the 3 modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses, and this tree also has its roots going down. and these are bound by the fruitive actions of human society. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundations are, where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Thereafter, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns, and there surrender to that supreme personality of Godhead, from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. Ooh, this is such a cool way to start the chapter, considering they're on a battlefield. You know what I mean? Ever think of it like this? That's one thing I think of it in this chapter is like, we're really going to do analogies here. We're about to fight a war. But yeah,
Well, they took a break, and
they took a little break.
yeah, I mean, quite frankly, Arjuna had decided, I'm not going to fight in this war.
Right.
I'm not gonna fight this battle. But so, the conversation, 700 verse conversation, the Bhagavad Gita, which really it encapsulates the Vedic knowledge that had come before, but it summarizes it and it boils it down to the really essential stuff. So now, yeah, here in these 4 verses, there's an analogy given of this banyan tree, and yeah, and like you're saying, for those that have seen it, it's a tree like no other, right? The way that it grows, it's it can spread out, like, and just it kind of spreads out and then puts down new trunks and spreads out and puts down new trunks until you have this big tree that, like you're saying, people can even live in those trees. You can kind of really
You make a little campsite in there, a fort. It's and the branches drip. It's so interesting. They drip and become roots.
Yeah, it's from the branches grow down what seem like new trunks that go back into the ground. But I believe that the one of the reasons why this banyan is being used is because it can be so huge and almost like you get lost in it. And that's what's being said here, is that this tree represents the material world. It says that the leaves are the Vedic hymns, meaning that in the 4 Vedas, it provides hymns for the purpose of trying to derive greater material enjoyment in the world. Like, if I want to do some ritual to have the birth of a healthy child, then there'll be a hymn that you use as part of that ritual. If you want rain for your grains to grow, for your crops to grow, or if you want wealth or whatever you might want, it kind of provides these directions for enjoying this world. And so it's saying we get caught up trying to enjoy this world. We're caught up, entangled, caught up in a maze-like tree, going around and around, trying to taste the sweet fruits of the tree, but also suffering within that tree. And we become very entangled in this world.
Right.
But there's a way out that's mentioned here.
Yeah, the material world is maze-like, and the tree is maze-like, and like this material world, it's got some very deeply rooted issues, right? We got some deeply rooted problems, some dark places. Like the roots go very down, bound to it says here, bound by the fruitive activities of human society. And you can analyze every part of the material world. There's got some very dark things you can get deeply entrenched in. They've got some very light things. The very tips of the branches. There's a key one that you just mentioned, is the Vedic hymns. Like, okay, that's the very tips, first is the senses, objects, or the twigs, and then the tips of those leaves, those are the Vedic hymns. Even the Vedic hymns, even these very, very refined types of prayers to give sense gratification, it's still material. It's still material. And therefore, it winds up with saying it's all got to be cut. Not just like the mode of ignorance has to be cut, not just our tamasic behavior, just the whole exploration of the material world. And you can get lost in anywhere. You can get lost in music, you can get lost in art, right? They refine things. You can get lost in languages and geography. You can get lost in the horrible things of this world and addictions and gangs and violence and stuff like that. All of it's confusing and a maze. And depending on and it's all of the gunas. So therefore, it all seems attractive. There's an attractiveness to the mode of ignorance. There's people who are very attracted to the mode of ignorance. There's people who they're propelled by the mode of passion. And then there's like the good neighbors who are attracted to the mode of goodness. It's all material, and it all ultimately has to be cut down with the weapon of detachment and bring us to our spiritual life.
Krishna will say, he has said earlier in the Gita, that we could understand what is jnana, or what is knowledge, by the understanding of three different categories, right? Understanding of the self, the soul, understanding of this material world, that the elements that make up our body and make up the world that we live in. So there's the soul, and there's matter. And then the third category is ultimately God, you could say, the Paramatma, or that's the supreme soul. And so this chapter is entitled Purushottama Yoga. And as we were saying, this month is Purushottama month, right? It means the Purushottama, the Purusha means the person, and Uttama means like that top person, or that supreme person. And so this chapter in particular is going to give information on that person. We need to understand that person that's behind everything. What it says here, this is taking it a step. It's being clearer. It's being more explicit than you'd find in a lot of the earlier literature, like the Upanishads. The Bhagavad-gita is going to be real explicit, that it's going to say, that this world is entangling. The Upanishads are going to say that. It's going to say that you need to free yourself from it through detachment. The Upanishads will say that. It's using an analogy that's saying that, in a sense, this world is like a reflection, right? Because we just heard this is an upside down tree. And in one of the commentaries here, Prabhupada kind of points out very nicely, where do you see an upside down tree? You see it in a reflection. Prabhupada's saying that this material world, just like a real tree is reflected on the surface of water. He said the spiritual realm is reflected and is upside down, reflected on our desire. And so that kind of idea of this world, in one sense, being illusory, it might be less explicit in the Upanishads, but it's there. They'll present this world as illusory. The idea that detachment is the way to freedom, that's a very Upanishadic idea. But and not that it's not at all there in the Upanishads, but it's going to be really explicit here in the Bhagavad Gita, that once you cut down that tree, many people that teach the Upanishads, they'll say that once you're free, once you're detached, you are God. There is no me and God as being separate. There is no duality whatsoever. But here in the Gita, Krishna's being really clear about this. He's saying, no, once you've cut down that tree and become free, what do? It says, Adyam Purusham Prapadye, that original person, the Adya Purusham, the Adi Purusha, right? That first person who from whom everything has extended since time immemorial, you're meant prapadya, you surrender unto that person. That's what comes after liberation, right? That's when you're finally free. It's not just like there is just light, or I am that God, or I am, it is no, there's a person to meet when you get to the other end. And so this chapter is going to clarify about that person that's behind everything.
Yeah, the material world is the banyan tree of the material world. The living beings are desperately trying to fall in love with something, somebody, some place, some home, some place to live. We're going to get a villa in Tuscany and rehab it. We're trying to fall in love with something of the material world, and we're not of this world, and therefore it's always left. When you read the Gita, it talks about this world as just a confusing maze of a place that won't fulfill your actual love. We do have a love. That's our birthright. Our birthright is to love, but we need to place the right puzzle piece in the right puzzle space. And that is when we develop that love of Krishna, when we develop our love for our higher power, when we develop that love for source. That's the perfect puzzle piece. Boom. And then everything else makes sense. Whether because you can still do things in this material world. You can be a black belt in jujitsu. You can have a place in Tuscany. You can, be a great artist, but all of them will somehow now be tied in with your liberation. And it will be also relevantized to the highest truth. We understand, like, okay, this is everything else will always leave me wanting all of our enjoyment in material world. And that's why this world is so confusing. That's why this world is like a banyan tree. That's why this world is maze-like. Everything that I see through my regular senses just says, I should just enjoy that. That will be completely enjoyable. I should make this endeavor. That will be totally enjoyable. And it always leaves a little bit wanting. And even if it does satisfy, it doesn't last. You got to come back for more. You're not just like fully satisfied. And the interesting thing is the soul is desperately looking for eternality. It's looking for a home. It's looking to be fulfilled. And it's looking for some lasting type of pleasure and peace of mind. And we can't get that in a temporary universe.
So if we're going to get out, if we're going to have the ability to develop, cultivate that detachment, free ourselves, what does it take? Like, what do I need to focus on? What do I need to really think about? How will I free myself? Text 5 is going to speak to that.
Are you going to read that one?
Okay.
I thought we were going to. Well, that's not part of the. Is that part of this section or no?
No, I mean, however you invite, I'm happy to read it. Those who are free from false prestige, free from illusion, and free from false association, that asatsanga we're talking about, right?
Mm.
Who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust.
Great translation, isn't it? I'm done with material lust. I'm done with it. I'm done with you. I'm done. It's over. I'm done. Material lust, I'm done. We should all say that to material lust today. Hey, lust, I'm done.
But, even if we say it, we may not really mean it.
I mean it.
But what happens is things happen in your life. Things happen in your life. Usually they're painful things, and that supreme person who's behind it all will put you in that place where finally if you're cultivating, if you're focused on, if you want it, then you'll get it. And then you'll say, I'm done, right? I don't have it in me anymore. I don't have that fight in me anymore to try to enjoy this material world. We want to try to get there, So those who are free from false prestige, delusion, false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress. Sometimes things are going my way, sometimes they aren't. I used to be riding on a wave. I'm done.
Krishna, give me whatever you want. Happiness, distress, whatever.
Yeah, it's like, and who unbewildered know how to surrender unto that supreme person. They attain to that eternal kingdom. What's beyond that? It means they're no longer in. There's something profound about this idea that this world is not just a banyan tree, but it's an upside down banyan tree, meaning that wherever there's a reflection, there has to be the substance that's being reflected, which looks just like it, but is absolutely backwards, or, in this case, right side up. What is the right side up of this world then? It's saying that there is a realm that this world is a reflection of, that has variety, that has relationship, that has people, that has individuality in it. And so when you become detached from this world, you're becoming attached to that world, and that world is without the flaws that you were mentioning earlier about everything being temporary or dissatisfying in some way.
Right. So this is sort of a recipe to cutting the banyan tree. What you need to do, what the tool is, so to speak, and how to sharpen that tool, so to speak.
Yeah.
Freed from false prestige, illusion, false association. It's an interesting way to put it. False association.
Well, is it a satsanga? Is that
Jita Sangha Dosha.
Jita
Moha
Sangha.
Jita.
Moha means illusion. Jita means having conquered. Sangha dosha, faulty. Yeah, like
faulty
association that's got problems.
Right.
Sangha also means attachments that have problems. Like Sangha can mean like a group of people like that you associate with, or it can mean your attachments, like because the group of people get attached together. So
Sure.
it's in one sense by qualifying the word Sangha or the word attachment, it means that some attachments are good, right? It's just the faulty ones that you have to give up.
Right. And that could be
The problematic
people,
ones.
right? It could be people, that could be
Yeah.
places, that could be things. All of them
Desires.
could be faulty.
It can be
Yeah.
desires.
Yeah. It could be something as gross as, some type of addiction to a prescription drug or an alcohol or something. It's a faulty association, meaning it's not going to give you what it promises. It's promising me it'll give me relief from pain. No, it's going to cause more pain. Or there's the faulty association of people that sort of make us laugh. It's sort of fun to be around them, but it actually degrades my consciousness, and I know it, and I feel it afterwards. In the same way you eat a bad meal, it was junk food, and I feel it immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
So this is also a faulty association. It could be a
But
person,
I think
it could
you
be a
can
place or a thing.
I think you go deeper than that, Raghunath. Like,
Deeper?
Well, in the sense that it's not just like, oh, these people that are always gossiping, or these people that are all on drugs trying to get me to do drugs, but it's even like, it goes deeper into like any connection that we have in this world, even familial connections that are separated in some way from moving towards the Purushottama, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I like to go towards the tamasic versions of it because it becomes a little bit more evident. But yeah, eventually even these like very refined, even the Vedic hymns, they're saying has to be cut.
No, it all has to be cut.
That's a pretty bold statement for a lot of like yogis to hear that.
I mean, again, it's saying Sangha dosha. The problem, if within your family those relationships aren't disconnected from the Purushottama, then they're not dosha. Then they're not problematic. But if you're thinking something or someone separately from that connection to the root is going to give me the happiness that my soul craves, that desire will remain unfulfilled and will be the cause of pain.
People as they advance in their spiritual life too, you can bring Krishna and spirituality into anything you do. Truthfully, for the most part, anything you can do, you can give some light there to people. You just have to be careful that you don't get overwhelmed by their association, and you just give that spiritual association. That's sort of like a little a trick of the trade for those who are. Most of us who are like in the material world, we're not isolated, we're not in an ashram, etc.
Yeah. Okay. Now we're going to get a little back and forth here. First, we're going to hear one verse that just gives a clue about the origin of the reflection, the spiritual realm. And that's text number 6.
The supreme abode of mind is not illumined by the sun or the moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world.
Okay, so he's saying there is this realm beyond, self-illuminated realm, a realm where there really is no darkness. And then there's the realm that we're wandering around in, which is this, inverted, reflected banyan tree. Now, what is it like? What are we going through? What is the experience of all of us as we move through this tree? And it kind of this description. Let's read like text 7 through 9. These texts will, right off the bat, Krishna is going to share something here and make something abundantly clear. Something that's debated, by the Vedantins. Like, what is the nature of the self? What is the nature of the self's relationship to God? Is the self God? Is there only one self ultimately, or are we all individual? Are we individual temporarily in a state of illusion, and then we all merge into one? What is the nature of the self? And what is the experience of that self as it wanders through the material world in illusion? What's that like? These 3 texts will speak to that.
These are great texts, by the way.
They're very, yeah. Okay, so text 7. The living entities in this conditioned world, Krishna says, they are my eternal fragmental parts.
Not God. but fragmental
A part of
parts
God.
of God. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. And eternally.
Angsa.
Angsam, yeah, like a part or a limb from, right?
Yeah.
That every living being, in one sense, is part of God, made of God's energy, but always dependent on God. It's fragmental, small, right? Like a little ray, like a little ray of light coming from the sun, made of the same stuff, but eternally an individual. There's no point in time where we realize, oh, I am that source of everything. No, eternal fragmental part. Due to conditioned life, right? Due to our moving through this world and becoming programmed, our mind becoming programmed by it, they're struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind.
So good, huh? We are just programmed, and we're programmed in a faulty way. It's just like putting a faulty program in the computer.
Yeah.
And the first faulty program is you're a body.
I am this.
You're of this body, and you're of your stuff, and you're of this nation, and you're of this. People are so confused. It's just a simple thing. This one thing. If we could just get over this one thing, it can solve so many problems in this world. Stop identifying yourself as a temporary being. It's not going to give you any peace. See yourself and see the world as eternal parts of God, pure spirit souls that are just a little lost. Once you go out on the limb to say, I'm from this country, I'm from this nation, I'm from this political group, they're just all temporary, and you're always going to get into a complicated argument with somebody. Keep the main thing the main thing. You're a pure spirit soul. We're just a little lost, and we're trying to connect with ourselves. Woo! We fixed all the world problems right there. And there's other living activities out there too. They may be in the form of aliens. They may be in the form of plants or animals.
It started with aliens. Okay.
Planets are people too, Kautstubha. Just want you to know that.
So if we don't understand that, the whole idea is here, we're meant to learn lessons as we move through this life. Our senses are calling us to try to identify with the body, try to enjoy through the body. That's the goal of life. We're meant to learn deeper lessons. We're meant to try to understand who we truly are and let go of all these attachments. But if we don't, by the time we leave the body, well, then what happens next? That's text 8. You want to read it?
Sure. I mean, I think people should just read this verse again. Read this verse 20 times. Instead of reading this chapter, read this verse 20 times and just like think about it.
7
think
or 8?
Deeply about it.
7 or 8?
7.
Okay.
Although I will say, the first time I remember that the day I heard this verse for the first time.
7 or 8?
Number 8. Number
Okay.
8. You know whose class it was?
No idea.
Guru Kripa Prabhu.
Okay, like this
Guru
one guy.
Kripa, famous Swami. He's not a Swami anymore, but powerful speaker.
Okay.
And I was brand new. I was on tour with Youth Today, and he
All right.
gave a class. And this guy is powerful
A lot of
guy. He
conviction.
gives such a good class on this verse.
Okay.
The living entity in this material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus, he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another.
Okay. So, yeah, just like we give up this external gross material body that's made out of the Mahabhutas, right? Earth, water, fire, air, ether. That drops. And then the soul travels, but it's taking with it that subtle body, made of mind, intelligence, and ego. Different conceptions, programming still there, karma tied into it, right? Sewn into it, laced into it.
Let me read 9 because it just goes so well with this.
We take that into the next body, and then text 9.
Okay. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, right? Think of all the ears out there. Little rabbit ears.
Can hear things that we can't hear.
Yeah, dog ears, right? Horse ears.
What about the nose? The dog has a nose.
Dog has a nose. They're sniffing everything. A dog comes in your house, they're sniffing everything.
It's because they actually take in like thousands times more information.
They can smell things better than you. How about like
they figure it all out with the nose.
I know, and they can smell it. Some animals smell so far away.
Yeah.
They smell like a dead carcass, and the coyotes will come from so far.
Or like there's cocaine in that suitcase.
Yeah, like a sniffing dog. I can't sniff cocaine in a suitcase. I've tried.
So you've tried.
The living entity thus taking another gross body obtains a certain type of ear, an eye, right? We were talking about eagle eyes, hawk eyes, right? A type of nose, a sniffing nose, and a sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. Yesterday's verse, I could not stop thinking about what we were talking about in class. We're thinking about how, like, yeah, we're at the pinnacle of enjoyment in this human body. These stupid animals, they don't know how to enjoy life. Think about it. We can't, our senses are so limited. We can't even fully enjoy. I can't see full spectrums of color. I can't smell as good as my dog can. I can't hear as good as my dog can. You know, even some animals can have sex multiple times a day, right? So it's sort of like, how great is this material body? What to speak of? We have, if we do something, it's riddled with guilt or plagues ourselves. We just struggle with our mind. We got like, I've had too much sex, I have to see a therapist, or I've eaten too much, I have to see a therapist. I've done this too much, I got to see a therapist, I get depressed. You generally don't see that so much in the animal species. It's sort of like just hopping around, walking around, freaking around. They're not like so like overwhelmed by their mind. So yesterday we were talking about, imagine it would be like, as great as this body is, imagine it'd be like if we just had our pure body. I used the example yesterday. I'm trying to hold Mara's hand, but I have a blanket over myself. So is it really like I'm holding her hand? We said the boy in the plastic bubble, you're trying to touch the guy, but you're going through like a plastic sheath. Think about it. If we are unsheathed, this is what is describing. The soul does have senses. It does have feelings. It does have emotions, but we're seeing it through a very, very tainted lens. And the whole yoga process is a scrubbing of the lens, And therefore, when we give up the body, it's not a bad thing. It's a shedding of this this casing of the soul. It becomes like such a glorious thing.
Yeah, if you have understood it all, right? Otherwise, you take that mind with you. You enter the new body according to your karma. You get, it's interesting that it said they get a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped around the mind. When I was in London, I gave this talk about how the mind is a computer, and the senses are the plug-in devices, right? If you put a computer on a table, and then you group the senses around it, the camera is the eyes, the microphone is the ears, etc.
Right.
And the mind is the center of all that. And then you take that mind with its programming and you move it into the next body. Now, here's these next few texts, I think like text 10 through, 10 and 11. I find these really fascinating verses. I think about these verses a lot, Raghunath. This speaks, we were speaking lately, you and I, we've been spoken about, and actually the next sage group, next week, the sage groups will be discussing this idea. This idea about how what we can perceive, and the difference between refined perception and refined perspective. First, you refine your perspective, how you see the world, how you interpret it. And you cultivate that idea, and it will mature into refined perception, that you actually see things a particular way. So what this is saying here is like, okay, Krishna just dropped some knowledge on us, some jnana, some idea about what life is like in this world, that we're moving around, struggling with our senses, trying to enjoy this world, not learning the lessons, moving the soul, dropping the body, moves on to another body with a certain set of senses. Now, I can't perceive the soul leaving the body with its subtle mind and entering into another body. I can't directly perceive that. But what I can do is I can hear about it. And then the idea is you hear about it, and then as you move through life, you reflect on that idea. And if you can reflect on that idea through, now you've gone from hearing to inference, right? From testimony to inference. Ultimately, the ultimate thing is it could ultimately move to perception, like I could actually see this, right? But here Krishna's going to say you can see it through inference. You can understand something, just like it's just a standard way that we gain knowledge, is that we hear from someone about something, we think about it, and then we begin to see the world that way. Just like take AA or something like a 12-step thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's some intervention in my family, or I get, due to maybe even I have to go because of some legal matter, I have to go attend these meetings. And I'm thinking, I got my whole thing under control. I can drink and I don't have to, but now I'm sitting in this meeting, I'm hearing testimonies. And as I hear those testimonies, I'm beginning to feel a little different. And as I move through the world, I'm reflecting on those testimonies to the point where I get it. I can't drink a little bit and be without it destroying my life.
Right.
I see, hearing those testimonies about, I ruined my marriage, my kids hate me, I lost my job, I did this. I began to see that I'm one of these people too. And if I'm not very careful, this will be very destructive in my life. So now I understand it. Before it was just talk. Now I see it. And what Krishna's saying here is that through hearing about this, certain people, they can see all this going on. They can see that I get it. Everybody's moving around, trying to satisfy the senses, taking one birth after another, moving into different species. It clicks. That's how this world works. And others can't see it at all. Right? Others just have no access to it. So we
so
hear
when
about
death comes, they're blown away. They're just like, what just happened?
Sure. Or while they're moving through this world, they're not even thinking about death, even though it's happening all the time, or thinking, what are the consequences after death, or even trying to understand it. And even if they try to understand it, it's going to be said here, unless they're hearing from the right source, they're not going to understand it. And so these two verses speak to that. And then the verses following it will speak to like how we can see things in a different way, how we can see what's behind it all. Go ahead.
Prabhu,
yes.
I just want to make it very, very clear to everybody right now. I'm not doing this whole thing in hopes of a spiritual realm, even though that's the promise. And even though that's what they say that's what we should go for. We want a spiritual life. We don't want to take birth again. I'm hoping that works out. But I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it because I like bhakti right now. I like bhakti in my life right now. It makes my day better. I'm not doing it for some pie in the sky when I die. I'm doing it right now. Bhakti in my life is so much better than without it. Just want to clarify that.
Thank you.
I think it's important. Or else it's like religion becomes this constant carrot on a stick. You just be good. Be a good boy.
I don't think that's what we're hearing here. I think what we're hearing here.
No, we're not. We're not. But it came up because we're talking about weapon of detachment. You got to cut it. You got to walk away from this stuff. And this was sort of like.
Okay. Yeah. What's saying here is that we're moving an illusion and we're suffering because of it. And we don't need to.
Maybe that's why I brought up this idea.
Okay. But please, you want to read?
Yes.
Text 10 and 11.
Text 10 and 11. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body. That's a British way of saying leave his body, right? To quit his body. Nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the gunas, right? The modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this.
Yeah.
Right?
Jnana chakshusa, to see through the eyes of knowledge. It means that you begin to, through reflection, you begin to see the world in another way. You hear, you reflect on it, you cultivate seeing the world in a particular way, and then it becomes natural. I get it. It's right in front of my eyes.
Yeah, I'm watching my dog, man. My dog's going through, he's getting old. He's suffering. And I'm just like looking this spirit soul, like trapped within this body, trying to like enjoy like he used to. His tail is wagging, but he can barely jump on the couch now. He's just sort of like, struggling in his body.
It's going to quit it soon.
Going to quit it. It's going to get a higher birth. Okay.
Text 11.
Text 11. The endeavoring transcendentalist who are situated in self-realization can see all this. But those whose minds are not developed, right? This is a real developed mind. Those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what's taking place, though they may try.
I'm experimenting. I'm speculating. I'm trying to figure out.
No, there's a way to figure it out. The Bhagavad Gita is the key. It's the simple. It's the ABCs. It's the simple key to get in to figure out this life's mystery.
Now, how do we do that practically? Arjuna might ask at this point, well, you know what? I don't want to be one of these blind people. I want to see what you're saying. I want to understand what you're saying earlier, that you're this original person that's behind everything. How am I going to give me some information that's going to help me see that? That's going to help me become this in a practical way in my life.
Sure. So this goes into the next section, which starts at text 12. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of the whole world, comes from me, right? You see that amazing sun giving life to everything? That's coming from me. That's just like it all comes from me. That big globe of fire that they say, like, we'd be dead immediately if it just moved a hair's breadth away from our planet, we'd all be dead. Guess what? It all comes from me. Okay. And the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire, all are quite splendorous.
Yeah.
It all comes from me.
Now, he's going to, in the following verses, what he said here, there's the sun, there's the moon, and then there's fire. And these are fundamental aspects of our existence in this material world. And he's going to say that actually, like, your very existence is dependent on me appearing as the sun, is dependent on me appearing as the moon, is dependent on me appearing as fire. Just the food that you eat, the very most basic form of sustenance, eating food and digesting that food and being nourished by that food, at every stage, it's me having, extending, pervading this world that's sustaining you. Understand that.
It's almost like this trick we used to play when we were little. There would be somebody in the room and we'd pretend, like, 5 of us would pretend that person doesn't exist. And you just walk around and you're like talking to each other, but you're ignoring that person. This is what's going on. Krishna is right in front of our faces, but we're just ignoring. So Krishna has to spell it out for us. Listen, you're digesting food, duh.
How do you think you're doing happening? That? You think it's happening all just by chance, automatically?
Yeah. You're getting sustained. I'm giving you berries. It's blackcap season. I'm giving you berries just to pick. They're wild. You didn't even have to plant them. I'm giving them to you. Whatever. It's random. It's not random. Your thoughts are random. Everything's a gift, you unappreciative, ungrateful louse. Come on.
He's not saying it quite in that mood, but
no, he's not.
But read text 13 and 14, and this is gonna.
I enter into each planet, duh.
Like the sun, the moon.
Say duh, but yeah. I enter into each planet by my energy. They stay in orbit. How do you think they're floating?
Not just chance. There's a designer behind it.
I stay in by my energy. They stay in orbit. Well, it's gravity. Yeah, where do you think gravity came from? I become the moon, and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables.
That's right. So the fact that there's nourishment in the food that you eat is because I'm pervading the sun. I'm pervading the moon. And then, well, what about digesting it? You can't even do that without me.
Isn't it interesting? There's nourishment in the food. That's fascinating.
There's nourishment in the food.
It could just be just chewing on stuff because we're hungry and I got to put something. It nourishes you.
I was, anyway, it was a bit of a squirrel, but I remember.
Squirrel me this, sir. What?
When we were kids, when you're in New York City back then, especially in the neighborhoods that we hung out in, as a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, I could just go hang out in the bars, even though I think the legal drinking age was like 21 at the time, right?
I know, you could just.
I don't even know what is the drinking age now. Is it still 21 in New York?
Is it?
I don't even know.
How do you know?
What is it?
It's common knowledge. Okay.
What is it? What's the age?
It's 21.
21.
But yeah, anybody can get into a bar.
I was hanging out in bars on the Lower East Side when I was 15 and 16 years old. And I have this memory where there's this one girl that was talking to me, and I was saying to her, because I was just contemplating life a little bit,
Yeah.
And I was saying,
all philosophical.
I was saying, if we didn't need food, we'd be completely free. It's like we have to go to work. Why? So that we can get food. That's like the fundamental need of our, 3 times a day or so.
We're the only species that pays
we
for
need
food.
we need to fuel up. But if we didn't need, and she was just saying, that's just stupid. Like, you're just being stupid. No, we're supposed to think about these obvious things. And Krishna's like saying, hey, dummy, your digestion that's happening, it's not just by chance. There's the whole, your whole nourishment. And is what's happening here is Krishna's going to say, well, read text 14 and then let's talk about it.
I'm the fire of digestion. Duh. I want to say duh, but it sounds bad. Krishna's not saying duh. I'm the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities. And I join with the air of life, right? The prana, outgoing and incoming, to digest the 4 kinds of foodstuffs.
Okay.
That's what I like about Vedic thought. It's taxonomy all the way through. There's not food. There's 4 kinds of food. Licked, drunk, chewed, sucked.
Okay.
Those are the 4
Thank
types
you.
of foods.
Thank you.
Lollipops, sucked.
Licked.
Smoothies, drank.
I thought you licked a lollipop.
That's what I said. You lick a lollipop.
No, you
You
said
licked
sucked.
it. Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay,
What do you
anyway.
suck? What do you suck then?
But here's my point, Raghunath. Think about eating now. Look what Krishna's doing. He knows everybody reading this has to eat, right? But think of eating. Think of it not like we might normally do, like in New York, you eat a slice of pizza as you're running down the sidewalk, or even like a more kind of like a wholesome family meal where everybody's sitting and talking about anything. Think about eating like a sadhu. Think about like the way that a sage cooks in their little hermitage. Think and what they're contemplating, and then when they sit down and they take a bite of that food, where their mind is at. And Krishna's saying, bring your mind here, that this incredible vegetable that I'm eating, that it only exists because the sun exists, and it only has its nourishment because the moon exists and the earth exists, and they're all pervaded by Lord Vishnu. This manifestation of Krishna. The reason that water was by the power of the sun was lifted from the oceans and distilled and then held as distilled water up in the clouds, and then the wind, all these elements of Krishna. And then the wind blew that cloud and it dropped its water over the land. And the water as the water passed through the earth, it was picking up the minerals from the earth as it went in. And then these seeds, each one with life inside them, the seeds in the ground would pull nutrients from the earth, and flavor from the earth that would aid our digestion and so on. And when I'm eating that, what a incredible, gift this is. And it's all coming from that supreme person who's pervading everything. And as a matter of fact, even as I eat it, my ability to digest it and to give me fresh energy, that's all coming from that supreme being too. Krishna's saying, if you contemplate like this, you'll begin to see the world like this. You'll have the jnana chakshusa. You will be in this world in a completely different way than others, and you'll actually see and understand what's going on.
Prabhu, it's 9:00. Should we finish this chapter tomorrow?
Yeah, I was thinking we should
tomorrow.
finish it today. There's not that much left, huh?
No, there's 5 more verses.
Yeah, 6 more verses. Let's
more
just hit
verses.
it. We'll take an extra 10 minutes.
Is it inappropriate to say on the podcast, I have to go to the bathroom? I do. And
You can't last 10 minutes?
and not really, but do you really want to finish? We could finish it tomorrow.
Okay, if you want to finish it tomorrow, we'll
Let's finish it tomorrow.
Okay.
It's a good thing, and people like to be regulated with their time. It starts and it ends. It's going to end at 9:00. It ends.
It's just, it's nice to have, like, when you have a podcast, just like one thing that people can
for the
tune
show.
into.
Chapter
well-
15, part 1. I get it. That
Yeah.
doesn't have the same ring to it, unless we look at it as a trilogy or something, or about 15 chapter trilogy.
So you tell me, can you go 10 more minutes or no?
I know. I
Okay.
can't. I love you, but I can't.
All right. We'll
I'm
finish it up
embodied.
tomorrow. We'll finish it up
Thanks,
tomorrow.
everybody, for joining us. This was nice. I actually really enjoyed this. Purushottama Yoga. I want to thank everybody who listens on a regular basis on Zoom. I want to thank everybody who contributes to the show. Don't take it cheaply. We don't take it cheaply. It's a community-supported podcast. If you like what we're doing, you go to patreon.com/Wisdom of the Sages, and you throw something down, a couple bucks, a few dollars, $5, whatever it's worth to you that we're giving. Throw it down, and we appreciate that. And we try to make up for it by showing up as much as we possible, so you have a daily Bhagavad-gita class study. And we try to make a whole Patreon party going on where you can log into free yoga classes, free workshops, free trainings, etc. like that. And we're working on it more. We're trying to develop this more and more and more. We have a beautiful community. I'm really grateful for everybody. Check out what's going on. Check wisdomofthesages.com events. January, tons of great stuff happening. We want to see you all in India. And check out my website, Raghunath.yoga, for all the stuff going on at the farm. Super Soul this year. We got me and Lori Pag. We're going to get our Wisdom of the Sages retreat up on the board today, Mr. Kautstubha. Our last one of the year at Super Soul Farm, which is not up yet.
When is that supposed to be?
I'll tell you when we get off the phone here.
All right.
And then I got Chant Camp coming up, and then my pilgrimage in October. So I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. You can also check my stuff out on my Instagram page, on my link tree. If you're not on Wisdom of the Sages mailing list or my mailing list, go to wisdomofthesages.com or raghunath.yoga. Get on our mailing list. We let you know about things that are happening. We're going to let you happen about Miss Mara's scarves. We've got a scarf every 3 days. It's amazing. We've got trunk loads of her meditative scarf making here inside. We need to go to California this year, Kautstubha. I wanted to go to Drop the Ostrich. It just couldn't happen.
Oh, you can't do it?
No, we can't do it. But I'll be in Florida for the Holy Name, for the festival over Thanksgiving.
Okay.
When you come down?
What's that?
When you come down?
I may be in India at that time.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Oh, yeah. It's a possibility.
Alrighty.
Strong possibility.
Okay, my brother. Well, I love you. I love you all here. It's a beautiful day for a beautiful day. We're going to let the magic continue to flow. Have a beautiful Sunday, everyone. Haribol.